Not now, man. I'm prepping for a video. Come on, stop messing around. Oh, come on, man. We all know you're light. You're just showing off now. Hey folks, we're back again with another video, and today we're going to be working on a Rockshox SIDLUXE Ultimate Rear Shock. So this is the A1 chassis version of the SIDLUXE. There's an A1 and an A2. There are some slight differences between them for service, right? So we're just going to work on the A1 today. We're going to be doing a full service, full air can 50 hour, full damper body, and optional, and I mean optional, we're going to work on the eyelet a bit, but I'll explain that later. This is totally optional, okay? So with all that being said, let's get into the tools and parts needed for the job. As always, the most important tool on this table, right there, safety glasses. This is a shock. Pressures and oils. Wear your safety glasses. If you place your tools in the order that I'm going to go over them, it should make your life a little bit easier, all right? So we're going to start off with writing down the pressure and the air pressure and the rebound, pen and paper. We're going to take the shock. We're going to put it in a flat jaw. So you're going to need a vise. And then we're going to use an air pump to, well, take the air pressure. And we're also going to use it to fill up the IFP chamber. At the end, we need a high pressure, 500 PSI shock pump in order to fill it up. To take down write down the rebound dial settings, we're going to need a 2.5 millimeter Allen for the rebound. So from there, we're going to take off the air can. You might not need a strap wrench. We'll find out. So from there, we're going to start immediately work after we remove the air can. We're going to work on the damper. First, we need to take out the air from the IFP chamber. We need a Schrader valve removal tool to take out the plug and to take out the valve. From there, we're going to invert the shock stand straight up. We're going to take out the bleed screw, 2 millimeter Allen for the bleed screw. Once we take out the bleed screw, we're going to separate the damper body from the upper part of the shock. 19 millimeter wrench or a Nipex or a adjustable wrench or a channel lock. Be careful, but to torque it down later, we will want 19 millimeter crow's foot. I always recommend getting crow feet, and you could buy adjustable crow feet, guys, right? You don't have to buy individuals. There's adjustable ones out there now. So we separate the damper body. We're going to need something to put the oil in. Get yourself a little oil pan. We're going to work straight on the damper body with the IFP. To remove the IFP, we need air can, the easiest way to take it out. And then when we change the seals, we're going to set the IFP. Now, this is a Rockshox tool. Technically, this one doesn't fit the SIDLUXE, but it looks exactly the same. I'm not a big fan of this tool, to be honest. It stutters. So I love Fox's tool over here, and even though this side of this tool doesn't work, this side, I've tested it before on these shocks, and it does work perfectly. I'm just going to measure with a caliper the distance that I need, and boom. The nice thing about it, you cannot overshoot with this tool. You put it in, you are done. With this, sometimes it stutters, and before you know it, you overshoot, which means you got to take out the IFP again and redo it, right? So we're going to be done with all that now. We're going to remove the piston and the air cam piston. To remove the piston and the air cam piston, first we have to remove a valve on top. We need a 5 millimeter Allen and then an 18 millimeter. Although this is a thick one, we need a thin one. I'll get it later. It's a cone wrench. This is going to be too thick probably. We need a thinner cone wrench for the nut that we have to hold so we could unscrew the valve cap on top. And then later we are going to need a 18 millimeter crowfoot in order to torque it back down. Now we're going to work on the air can piston. There is a plastic ball in there. We need a 2 millimeter or really a 1/16 Allen in order to pop that ball out, okay? So we change the seals on the piston. We put everything back together. Now it's a question of filling up the shock with oil and closing it all up. Now, to hold the shock when we fill it up with oil and put the upper part, attach it to the lower part, to the damper body, Rockshox makes a special tool. Theirs is expensive. It holds the shock nicely, not only from spinning, but ultimately it puts pressure on the IFP in order for the IFP not to slip down when we're putting in the top part of the shock into the damper body. So this is a great tool. Again, you can buy them on eBay for way cheaper than what Rockshox sells them for, right? So I would definitely consider that. You'll see this in action. This thing works great. So we're done there. Then we're going to fill up the IFP chamber. Now I'm going to use nitrogen here. no matter which one, whether you use nitrogen or a shock pump, you're going to need this adapter. This is different than the typical red adapter. This one is thinner for the SIDLUXEs. So the other one is going to be too fat. You won't be able to fit it in there, right? Now, the reason I'm using nitrogen is because I recently posted a nitrogen filling video that explains how to use this Power Tank PT chuck, which works great. I'm loving this chuck. So what I didn't explain, well, in that video, I used the red adapter instead of this blue fill adapter. But ultimately, even though I talked about this pin, I never showed how to accurately cut this pin. So that's what I want to go over over in this video. All right. So that's why I'm going to fill it up with nitrogen, but you don't need nitrogen. Air works just fine for 99.999% of the situations out there. Very rare that nitrogen truly has an advantage. Okay. So torque wrench will come in handy. We're going to need, well, alcohol, paper towels, picks. You're going to need picks without a doubt to change seals. And that's pretty much it, guys. If there's anything I missed, I'm pretty sure that we will go over it while we're going through the job. Next, let's get into the optional, and again, optional eyelet service. All right. To work on the eyelet, again, this is optional and highly not recommended unless you have an absolute issue with your knobs or your shaft or your rebound. Okay. Stay away from this. This is only for people that have an issue. For starters, we need to separate the shaft from the eyelet. We need a 10mm soft jaw hole. Now, to separate the actual eyelet, I have an eyelet removal tool. You could use a wrench, adjustable wrench, based on whatever size width you have on your eyelet, based off bushings, whether it's just a metal to metal or if you have bushings. You would also need a crow's foot in order to torque it down. For the dials themselves, not much needed over here. 2mm and a 1.5mm Allen needed more than anything. And I think there's one screw that needs a 2mm Allen. Now, here's where it gets a little bit tricky. Technically, when we remove the shaft, putting it back doesn't always mean it'll be placed exactly where it was before. And in order to ensure that the rebound is in the appropriate, or the rebound shaft is in the appropriate spot, there is a tool. It's a gauge. It's a guide tool, basically, or gauge, really, more than anything, that you would buy. This is for pretty much all, not all, I don't know if it's all actually, I mean, lots of Rockshox eyelets. And they go into the rebound slot. And ultimately, when we insert the shaft and tighten it down, the shaft will tighten up to this gauge, and then we'll know that we are at the right spot. Is it absolutely needed? No, but to be, well, confident that you did it right, this tool is needed. 00.4318.073.000. Not cheap. So again, and none of this, again, is needed. None of this is needed. This is only optional if you have issues, okay? So with that being said, let's go on to the parts and oils needed for the job. As for parts, we're going to need a seal kit for an A1 chassis. Part number 00.4318.037.012. Technically, the A2 chassis is the same thing, but we're working on an A1 over here. In the seal kit, we get full 200-hour seals. We have our dynamic grease, which I think is optional, and our pillow pack for the air can. For the damper, we are going to need 7-weight oil, and I'm going to be using for the air can SRAM butter as opposed to dynamic grease. This is a personal choice. Either one will work just fine. I'm a bigger fan of SRAM butter in air cans than I am of dynamic grease. All right. With that being said, let's open up a shock. Before we open up a shock, we want to make sure it is completely clean. Remove any dirt, mud, any kind of buildup around all these little small ports, little corners over here. We do not want dirt falling into this thing when we start putting it all back together. So the first thing we're going to do is write down our existing settings, right? So remove the air cap, plug in a shock pump, screw that in quick. Okay. And we are at, a little bit more. We are at 178. 178 our air. Okay, now we're going to remove the air slowly. Make sure to remove it slowly, especially at the end, right? We want to remove air from both chambers. There we go. That is done. And next we take our rebound. Now, this thing's a really simple shock. We have our fully open and our locked, but underneath that we have our rebound. That's a 2.5mm Allen, right? So towards the turtle is locking it down towards the rabbit is putting it in the open position. We're going to count the clicks towards the rabbit. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 clicks. And that's it. Next, let's open up the air can. Before we open up the air can, let's remove our sag ring, put that on the side. Now, for the air can, we might need a strap wrench. Grab it first. I think I'm gonna need a strap wrench. Nope, I got it. Okay. You might need a strap wrench. Some people really torque them down hard, which you don't need to. Okay, so let's loosen it a little bit. And then what we're gonna do, just take any piece of paper towel or cloth, put it through here just to be safe. It's not absolutely needed, but it's a safety measure. And then we pop this guy out, so we are good. Okay, take him and pop him out. Wow, he's pretty dry inside, geez. That's ridiculously dry. Why so dry? Dynamic grease. Huh. Anyway, we are going to work on the air can later for the 50-hour service. I always like doing that later. Just clean it out. You should have a little bit more oil in here than this, personally, or grease, I should say. This thing just seems super dry. So we're going to go straight into the damper body service. First thing we're going to do is remove our bottom token. 2mm Allen. If you can see that screw, it's right there. Just unscrew it. Right, don't lose the screw. Remove the token. Put it back in its spot and put this on the side. Next, what we're going to do, turn the valve towards you. Schrader valve removal tool. There's a plug up here. Let's remove that plug. Okay. Come on. There we go. Take the plug, put it on the side. Now what we're going to do is take out the pressure from the inside. Grab any kind of Allen that'll reach in there, press down on it, and the air will come out like it just did. Okay. Now what we're going to do is remove the valve. Again, our Schrader valve removal tool. Just take it, unscrew it, and we are nearly done. There we go. And put this, we'll inspect him. Make sure that there are no weird marks or scuffs or cracks or anything. He's good. Now let's separate the damper body. I vertically mounted the shock on the vise, put an oil pan underneath, put some paper towel around here because when we separate this, oil will want to come out. First, we have to remove our bleed screw. 2mm Allen, nicely angled over here, very easy to access. Just take him, unscrew him, remove him, do not lose him, put him on the side. Then we take a 19mm wrench and open him up. Bit of a crack at first, well, not much of a crack for me this time. Take him, loosen him, do him by hand. To get to a point where just put pressure upwards, not too much, just to know when you are done. Nice and foamy inside. Again, when we pull him out, oil's going to want to come out, so just lift him straight up. Might be a little stiff. There we go. And we are going to set this guy in here for now. Okay. And he's going to fall over. Just leave him like that. So let's remove our damper body and take our oil. Whoa, man. Holy cow. It's evident that this thing's never been serviced. Yeah. That is what you don't want to see. Jeez. As always, folks, please dispose of your oil appropriately. Don't put it down a drain. Don't put it down a toilet. Don't put it down a sink. Don't throw it outside. Put it in a can that's clearly labeled dangerous. Don't drink and then give it to a local bike shop, give it to an auto shop, give it to a place where they could dispose of it correctly for you, all right? So I opened up the seal kit, okay? And we're going to remove the parts that we don't need. So again, this kit is for both the A1 and the A2 damper body, all right? We do not need the A2. It's going to be a little bit different. We do need the A1, so I'm going to put it over here. We're going to need the IFP. I'm not going to need the remote, the ferrules for the remote, so I'm going to put them there because I don't have a remote. We're going to need the air can, and minimum, I'm going to want this dynamic light air can lube, okay? And I'm not going to use the dynamic grease, but you can. So let's put that on the side. So the first thing we're going to do is remove the IFP from the inside. Easiest way to do that, air, put it in the chamber, and boom, out. Okay. Put this guy on the side. Now what we want to do, since we're here, let's clean our chamber. Okay, if you notice over there, he's not like a typical chamber. He's not flat at the bottom. Okay, he actually has he's got this mount that sticks up, right? So this is going to be a little bit tricky because this is a real small, thin chamber. There we go. Reach the bottom over there. And what you can do is grab like a wooden dowel if you want to get all the way to the bottom and take whatever grease is in there. But make sure you don't use anything metal, okay? So grab like a wooden dowel, like I have a skew over here. Touch the bottom, rub it around. This is the best you'll be able to do. Okay, and then just pull it out. Yeah, it worked. There you go. So this guy's clean. Make sure our threads are clean. Put him on the side for now. Right there. Now we have our IFP. Let's take a pick. Take out our ring. There we go. All right. Now let's clean the seat. Okay, clean the IFP. That thing was filled with old crappy oil. Let's make sure it's perfectly clean. Okay, now let's go into our seal kit. Simple kit. Oh, there is our IFP O-ring, our new one. Put some, it's a lot of grease. Put a little bit of grease on him. Slip him in. Come on, man, give me a break. There we go. All right, we're going to replace these later. Put them on the side for now. Okay, before we mix this guy up. Now let's put the IFP back in. So now we want to put the IFP back into the damper body. For starters, we're going to take a little bit of grease. We're going to coat the inside. Okay, I don't think I put enough grease there, to be honest. Don't put too much, just a little bit, right? We should have a little bit of grease on the outside of our O-ring that we put before. So put a little bit of extra around the O-ring. Okay. Now, Rockshox has a tool. It's not this one. It's the same thing, but smaller, thinner. I'm not a big fan of it. This is very easy to overshoot, right? So I like the Fox tool better because the Fox tool has this base that allows you to, well, just put it in and you'll never go deeper than you need to go. As far as IFP depth, this chart over here will show you the depth based off the stroke of the shock. So this shock is a 45 millimeter. That means I need to go to 55 millimeters depth, okay? The way I do that, well, before we do that, there's two sides to the IFP. You have this wide open side that has, edge, and then you have this side over here. This is the side that faces us, okay? So we're gonna take it and we're gonna put him in. Now, with the Fox tool, I would put it in. This one won't fit. I would put it in and go down to 55 millimeters. But I could do the same thing with this side of this Fox tool, right? So what I need to do first is make 100% sure, which I already did, that I am at 55 millimeters. I use my caliper. I measure from this edge to this edge, make sure they both touch. I'm perfectly at 55 millimeters. So then I take them, make sure he's sitting inside, put them all the way down, and done. I am fully seated. Like I said, you cannot overshoot, whereas sometimes the IFP gets sticky as you're going deeper in, and before you know it, boom, you go past to like 56 or 57 or 58, right? It's very easy with this tool to overshoot. actually we're not set. Now what we're going to do is we are going to put our valve back in. Grab my Schrader. That's why you keep your tools handy, guys. Make it nice and easy. Grab our Schrader valve tool, screw them in, make sure you don't strip them, very lightly screw them in. Put them down, and when you get the end, or when you get to the end, don't over crank them, just a nice finger snug, and that is it, okay? Now, they did give us a new cap and O-ring that goes on the cap, so let's just take that and put him on. All right. And he's going to replace this one here. Personally, I would keep these because, believe it or not, these heads, they strip pretty easy. So I would keep it if just in case it comes in handy one day, and just put it on the side where you won't forget it, all right? Our damper body's done. Next, we work on our piston assembly. So to remove the piston, first, let's put down the bearing assembly. We need to remove this valve cover, okay? Now, an 18 millimeter wrench, but it's a thin nut on here, so you're gonna need more of a cone wrench in order to hold the nut, and then a 5 millimeter Allen to remove the cap. Now, technically, both these parts could come off at the same time, but it's just a lot easier to keep things together if you remove them separately, right? So let's just take off the cap. Put this on the side. We're gonna have to get to this seal anyway later. Then we're going to take our 18 millimeter. We're going to separate it. Now keep your fingers underneath over here because we want to lift the whole assembly one shot once this thing comes loose, right? So unscrew this guy until he's detached, and then we lift everything one shot. Hold on to the shaft underneath, just like that. Now, one thing to note, there is a ball under here. Make sure that ball is there. If it falls out, make sure to put it back in. We will inspect all this stuff later. We are going to put him on the side for now. Let's remove our air piston, bearing assembly, air piston. Everybody has a different name for it. Then our bottom-up bumper and our bottom-up plate. Now, technically, this is the end of the 200-hour service. There is no need to remove this shaft. There is a rebound rod over here. It does have a seal. They do not give us a O-ring in the kit for that seal, because technically, if you remove that rebound rod inside, it needs to be replaced based on how it sits. Now, that doesn't always have to happen. I'm going to remove everything in order to show you guys how to work on the levers if you ever need to, but you should not do anything that I am about to do unless you have to, okay? So as far as I'm concerned, from this point, skip to the part where we start working on all this and starting to assemble. This here is not only optional, it is only needed if you have issues with either your rebound shaft inside your shaft, or your shaft if you break it, or if you have major issues or issues in general with your knobs, all right? So let's get started on that. So again, this part here, totally optional, all right? So 18 millimeter wrench. Let's take off our bottom out cap over here, unscrew them, and we're going to put him on the side. Then we have a spacer. Comes out easy, should at least. Put him on the side. Next, we remove the shaft from the eyelet. Again, do not do this. This is not part of the 200-hour service. A part of me doesn't even want to go through this to show you guys. So unless you have issues with either your shaft being broken, your rebound rod, or your knobs, do not do this. To remove the shaft, we're going to need a 10 millimeter hole in the soft jaw. Now make sure the soft jaw is clean of all oil and grease. Make absolutely sure the shaft is clean of all oil and grease. Now, clamp him down if you have a nylon or a plastic soft jaw. Make sure he's clamped down real well. A couple of options over here. If you have a standard eyelet, 13 millimeter wrench or a Nip-X or a adjustable wrench will work. I have an eyelet removal tool. I think he's actually, yep, there we go. I have an eyelet removal tool, which makes it a little bit easier. Take him, might be a crack. There we go. And we're going to unscrew this guy, and boom. Let's put this guy on the side for now. So, as far as the rebound shaft, this is an independent shaft for the rebound, right? So we're going to take a plastic pick, and that is him. Now there is a seal over here. They do not give us a seal. If you have to change the seal, you technically have to change the shaft that I know of. If I'm wrong, someone please let me know. But from what I understand, this shaft has to get changed as a whole in order to be able to change the seal. In fact, you should not be removing this shaft. I have the tools needed to put it together again, and even then I'm not going to be 1,000,000% sure if it's going to be sitting the way it should inside that seal head, but we will give it a shot. In fact, looking at this, this is the difference. The length of this gets set when we set this back into the seal head, and there's a special tool needed in order to do that, okay, that I know of, which I have, and there's no difference over here. So for now, well, I'm going to leave them separate for now and put them on the side. Next, let's work on the dials. Okay, so first we are going to start with removing the compression knob. 1.5mm Allen. There's a screw on top over here. It's going to be a little bit stiff. We want to remove that screw until we can remove the knob. So just keep on loosening until the knob comes up, okay? We're going to take that guy, we're going to put him on the side. Next, we're going to work on removing the rebound. Now, make sure the rebound is, well, actually, doesn't really matter at that point. We could do, let's keep on going with the compression. Let's totally take apart the compression. So again, we got 1, 2, and 3 screws over here, right? So first we're going to start off with these guys here, 1.5mm Allens. Okay, we're going to take him, put him on the side, don't lose him, and then take the other one. Okay, put him on the side. Now, there is a cap over here. Can I take him out now? My nails aren't big enough. Oh well, we'll get them later. So 1.5mm in the back, and this is where everything sits. So this one's a little bit bigger of a screw. Oops. Set screw. We're going to put them on the back. Now, if you notice, this cap popped off. There's a spring underneath this cap. Technically, we can move the whole assembly out now. Again, there is a plastic cup on this side, but what we're going to do is remove the entire assembly one shot. Now, the way it works, there we go. Okay, we have the cap, we have a spring, and we have this guy here, I don't know what to call him, and we have the cam. Okay, and over here on this side, we have this plastic cap. All right, so our compression completely empty. Now we work on the rebound. So for the rebound, we have these 2 screws here. Now, one of them I think is a 2mm. I think they're both 2mm on that one. Yes, now remember, make sure that we are in a fully open position. Okay, we're fully open. Grab a 2mm. Now we'll take this first screw off here. Loosen it. Be careful. There's a spring and a ball underneath. Let's put the rebound screws separate. We'll put them over here. There we go. So we got our rebound, our detent ball, and our spring. Now, this screw here is what holds the cap in place. I mean, the rebound rod in place. Okay, set screw, put them on the side. Now, we should be able to go in here and remove our rebound. That is our cam. All right, so this guy is totally clean right now. And well, let's clean him up. Then we have to set the shaft back in with the tool, and then we assemble everything after it's cleaned. All right, before we clean them, there is a seal, 2 seals technically. Let's take them out now. One on the inside over here. We won't change him yet, we're going to change him later, but there is a seal on the inside which they don't give us a replacement again. So let's take this seal out. He's right at the base over here. The reason I want to take him out is because I want to clean him And I want to clean this whole area of Loctite. Okay, so now let's put this guy on the side. I don't want to put alcohol in them because alcohol is not good for these seals. So let's take alcohol. Let's start cleaning everything in here. The most important part to clean. Let's clean first all here. But more importantly is the threads in here, because there is Loctite blue. At least they use blue and not red, which is a little bit more forgiving. Okay. We want to make sure that it's completely clean in there. That's looking pretty good. Still some Loctite residue in there. Clean this guy best we can. Oh, that's looking a lot cleaner. Cool. Now let's go in here. Clean the inside real well. Okay. Clean the backside in here. Oops, right. Okay. That's looking pretty good. Let's clean rebound. All right. Now let's try and get to the bottom. Let's see if I get a pick. This pick's not going to fit, but at least I could tuck some of this guy in there. There we go. That should work out pretty good. Can I see him? Sort of. Oh yeah, that's looking real clean. Cool. Now I'm going to clean the rest of this stuff. I'm not going to show it on camera so I can shorten this video, but basically we're going to clean every one of these one by one, and then, well, we're ready to start assembling. Now, hopefully you can see that clearly, but you see this over here? This is why I'm not a fan of dynamic grease. It dries out and turns into a chalky paste once it dehydrates. So it absolutely does dehydrate. I've seen this on dropper posts, forks, shocks. So that's why I like using SRAM butter or silicoleum or any of that kind of grease when dealing with grease that's exposed to air only and not air mixed with oil. When you mix this with oil, then it works great. It dissolves in there real nice. But on air on its own after time, it definitely, hopefully you can see this good. I really don't know if you can. Over time, it definitely dehydrates. All right. So everything is clean. This is our compression stack, our rebound, our two seals. This one gets changed later. This one we're going to put in now. Our seal, our eyelet, and our shaft with our rebound rod, right? Now, in order to put the rebound rod into, or the shaft into the eyelet, we have to make sure that the rebound rod is sitting correctly in there for the rebound cam. And to make sure, there is a tool, 00.4318.073.000. This is basically needed for all Rockshox eyelets, just about. I don't want to say all of them, but a lot of them. And I think it's just a bad design. Personally, I mean, Fox is so much easier. You don't need to go through any of this stuff, right? So, but for here, we need to make sure that this is set correctly. Now, the thing is with these things, technically, I shouldn't be reusing this right now. That's why they don't give us the O-ring, because every time you take this out, you take a chance of it not sitting right the next time you put it in, and they want you buying a new one and replacing the whole thing and setting a whole new one in there, okay? But I should be good over here, and everything should work just fine. Now, the way this works is we grab the tool that fits the rebound hole, and there's separate sizes, 3 main sizes that are seal heads. This should be this side, I bet, this size. And this is the rebound slot. We put it in there, right? And then what we do is we screw down the shaft with this guy in here, and he will compress, because he sits at the end over here in a seat. So he will squeeze into the proper depth in order to, well, function correctly for the rebound mechanism, all right? Now, before we do anything, we're going to have to put this seal back in. Now, put a little bit of grease on the seal, all right? Just to keep him moist. We're going to take him, we're going to put him at the base. Okay, stuff him in there, and then let's take, there we go. Stick in there. Okay, you can do it. Oop. There we go. Yeah, guys, honestly, this works great. I've been using this lately. Grab a plastic pick and just cut out some holes, and it just grabs around the O-rings and it lets you put them in much easier. So next, let's put this guy here, even though I won't need him till later, if at all. Clean the threads. Okay. All right. We don't want any grease on the threads because we've got to put Loctite. Now, let's put them on the side for now. We're going to grab some grease. We're going to put them on the shaft. That's the inner shaft, or the rebound shaft. And then we're going to take this guy and put a little bit more grease on him. Okay. Now we're going to take him. We're going to put him in the bullet side goes down because he sits in a seat, and tuck him all the way in. And let's remove the excess grease. Okay. Now, make sure there's no grease on the threads. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to take a Loctite blue. Go blue. I'm going to put a little Loctite blue on the threads. Oops, that's too much. Let them sink in. That's way too much. Okay, he sunk in there nicely. Now, we're going to take this guy. We're going to put him in, right? Just like that. Hold down on him, even though you're probably not going to be able to screw it in all the way. Now we're going to take this guy. We're going to screw him in. Okay, that's pretty much as far as I could go. Now, clean shaft of all alcohol. Put him in a 10mm vise. Make sure he's tight down there. And then grab your wrench. Grab whatever you're using. Torque, 90-degree angle in my case. If you have, you're going to need some kind of crow's foot, right? 13mm crow's foot would come in handy. 4.5 Newton meters. I believe I already preset him. I'm going to put him in. Well, I mean, I guess I could do it by hand here. There we go. Let's try this again. There we go, 4.9. And he is in there. Now, we can take out our rod. Ooh, he's in there tight. I'm on, slippery. See what I mean? He crushed right on him. Now I got to get him out, except he's a little too tight in there. Grab a plier, and there we go. A little bit more grip comes in handy. So now he should be correctly seated for the cam to fully activate the rebound shaft. Okay, even though right now technically there's nothing in there. So we should be good. So, well, let's start assembling the rebound shaft. So first we're going to take grease, but we are going to use, where's the other grease? We're going to use waterproof grease. We're not going to use regular SRAM butter. This is just regular grease, a thick grease. Okay. And oops, I put them on the wrong side. Great. Well, it doesn't matter. Put them on the cam over here. Okay. That's where we want them. In fact, I'm going to clean them up on the other side because that's going to be sort of exposed to the outside. We don't want grease exposed. So again, we're going to take grease. I'm going to put them towards the cam. Hopefully you see that good. All right. Now what we're going to do, we're going to take this guy. Well, the camera overheated when I put in the rebound knob, and I noticed that there was some blue Loctite that had leaked out, so make sure you check for blue Loctite around the shaft at the bottom over here and wipe off whatever you see, right? So we have the rebound knob inside. Just leave it around, you know, somewhere around here. Basically, the whole goal here is we want to screw it down. This is where the set screw goes into, and this is what stops it, right? So we're going to put this guy in like this. And first what we can do is put the set screw in. So here's our set screw. The set screw goes in the back. And it was a 2 millimeter. Now what we're going to do is screw it in until it's tight, right? And then, see, it made it to the end. Now take it back half a turn. Okay, and then test it. We want a little bit of friction. There we go. In fact, that's a little bit too loose. Let's tighten a little bit. That is too tight. Let's loosen a little bit. There we go. That's pretty good there, right? So we don't get any wobbling, and ultimately we get some nice turning. So now, and if you notice, now we hit our limits, right? So, in fact, I can make them just a little bit tighter maybe. Again, we don't want them too tight. We don't want them too loose. Now, we could put in our ball. Put a little bit of grease on the spring. Put in our spring. Plastic pick. Get in there. There we go. Then we have our screw without hair, 2 millimeter. Put this guy in. Again, we don't want them too tight. Screw them all the way in, take them out one full turn to start off with. There we go. There's our click. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yay! Fully open position. Let's leave them there. Okay. So now we want to do our compression assembly. Compression. We're going to start off with this guy here. We're going to put grease on him. Put a good amount of grease on him. Again, not shrimp butter, regular waterproof grease like I'm using crystal, white lightning crystal. Okay, we're going to take this guy. I'm going to put him in, cover him with grease. Okay. Now, from the backside, we're going to slide him in. Right? If you notice, we have this flat spot. Make sure the flat spot is facing upwards, just like that, right? So, now we're going to take some grease. We're going to put it on our spring. Got him pretty good. Take him. Oops. We're going to put him in. Okay. In our hands. Then we're going to take our cap, and there's a hole on the top of the cap. That hole needs to go in that, needs to line up with that hole above. Okay, and when we do that, we press down on it. We have our set screw. Our set screw was a 1 millimeter. Screw him down to the end. Maybe not to the end. Yeah, to the end. I believe to the end. Let me test that. Yep, there we go. So he's working good. Now, on this side, we have our cap. Okay, there is a flat spot on the cap. Let's take the flat spot and put him up. Sink him all the way in. And we take our set screws. Actually, it'd be easier to put them on here. Okay, 1.5 millimeter again. Okay, you didn't like it? Let's do this guy. 1.5 millimeter. Screw him in. Okay, take the other one. Screw him in. Okay, now it's the best chance to clean underneath the knob. We don't want grease here because grease will just collect dirt. It's our best chance to clean all of it right now. So next we're going to take our knob, and we got the flat part. And we are in the open position. Take him all the way down. Don't over tighten him, but good finger tight. Boom and boom. Done. All we have to do now is clean up all the remaining grease. And our eyelet is done. So again, don't do this. Don't attempt this. There's no need to do it in a 200-hour service at all. I only showed this to you just in case, one, you crack a rod, you need to change out your shaft, you need to change it out, you have an issue with your rebound on the inside, or if you have an issue with your dials for whatever given reason, right? So that's pretty much it. Why they don't give us, because the reason they don't do it is because of that whole shafting. It makes it more complex than it needs to be, in my opinion. So the reality is this shouldn't be built like that. I think it's just unnecessary, but that's just me. What do I know? All right. Next up, let's start assembling it all like we would in a regular 200-hour service. So if you notice over here, I opened up the seal kit. One thing to note, this white ball, make sure you do not lose that white ball from the kit. We need that ball. It's very important. So leave everything here as is. Next, we will finish up the 200-hour service. Technically, this we wouldn't have taken out. You only need to really, well, I guess you can in order to make life easier to change this guy here, right? So we have the replacement for this guy. So I'm going to take the old one, put him on the side, take the new one, get some SRAM butter, put him on here. This guy, we're going to take him and we're going to tuck him into the seat. It's right above that Schrader valve in here. There we go. And he just slipped in. Now, we can take this guy, pop him in, make sure this edge sits on that edge over here. Okay, just like that. Then, if you notice, he's got a flat side on top. That flat side sticks up. Take him, screw him in. Grab an 18mm, don't over tighten him, just snug him in there. Now, grab our bottom plate, put him in. Now they give us a new, where'd it go? Bumper. Might as well put the new bumper in. Nice and stiff. Now, here's our air can piston. We have 2 seals we need to change. These guys here are part of the 50-hour. We're going to do him later. I don't like doing these now until the end, just in case I damage new ones by mistake, right? So what we're going to do first, we're going to go inside here, take this guy out, put him down, and we're going to go in here and pop this guy out. So pop this guy. Okay, be like that. There we go. Pop him out. All right. So that's pretty much it. Our bushing in here, there's a bushing in there, no scratches, no nothing. He's in good shape, no wear. So let's clean this guy for now. Now, one more thing that we need to take care of. That plastic ball, it is in here. To get him out, we need a 1.5mm Allen. Now, he could be pretty stiff. We go from the inside and we push him out. There we go. Okay, that's the old one. You can't reuse these because they crush. That's literally a crush ball in order to seal the bleed hole. Okay, let's throw that out and put him on the side. And then, obviously, it's this guy here, new one, old one, and this guy here, new one, old one. Let's start with the inside. I like filling up a little bit too much. Or there it is. Fill up the seat with grease. Okay. And put a little bit of grease on him too. Then we're going to pop him in just like that and pop this one seat, or put him in the seat on one side. And then I'm going to force him in. Again, I'm going to grab this guy here. And boom. Oop, nearly done. There we go. Perfect. He is in. Clean up the remaining grease. Make sure he's sitting real well. Take the remaining grease. Put him on this seal. Take this guy, and we stuff him in here. Right at the base, just like that. He is done. Over here, we don't have anything, but what we will do, since we're here, let's inspect our shims. Make sure we're all kosher. Lots of shims over here. Be careful. See what I mean? It looks like there's 2 and there's like 3 or 4. Just these big ones. There you go. 1, 2. 3. He's good. He's good. He's good. Okay. And then get a rebound shims. Yeah. He's good. He's good. They're all good. All right. And we have one more seal to change. We will change him before we close him up. Actually, I nearly forgot. We have one more seal to change. This guy over here. Ow. Oh, we just had him. Oh, get inside. There we go. There we go. Done. Get him out of here. Grab the small one here. Now that I stabbed my fingers 15 times. Put a little bit of grease on him. Just to slide him up. And boom. All right. So next, let's take a little bit of grease, put on the shaft. Take our eyelet assembly, this part down, right? Slide him in. Be a little bit stiff because he's brand new. Wipe off any grease from the ports. Definitely don't want grease on the threads inside. Actually, let me get a clean one, lint free. Okay. Now, when putting this guy in, what we're going to do first is we're going to try and sit this guy with the shims. Okay, and then we're going to put the rest in. So let's sit this guy in, make sure the shims fall in and everything's lined up with each other. Could you see that well? I think you can. Okay, see the shims, when the shims all line up inside, it'll all sit together. Might take a couple of shots over here. And that's it. Okay, so he's sitting well. Now we could take the rest of it, tuck in the inside. Okay, screw him down by hand. Since we're here, take out this O-ring, put it on the side, put a new O-ring in. Okay, then we torque him down. 18 millimeter torque, crow's foot, 4.5 Newton meters. Not exactly ideal. Okay, but we should still be able to do it. There we go. 4.71, more than what we wanted, but it is what it is. So next we're going to be bleeding him, but before we bleed him, we want to make sure that our compression plate is all the way down, right? So right now with the knob facing upwards, we're towards the piston. We're in the fully open position. Press down on the plate. And now we're in the fully open position, so oil could go through. So we are going to take our cap now. All right, screw them in by hand, take our 5mm and just fist tight, nothing too hard, only a few Newton meters, put him on the side. So now we are done with our eyelet assembly. For the bleed, let's prep. We have our torque wrench, 28 Newton meters, 19mm crowfoot. You might need your 19mm wrench or Nipex or whatever you're going to use to tie it down if you need to, but ultimately a crow's foot to torque it, very important over here. So we have our bleed screw on our 2mm Allen key. We have the white ball. We're going to need the white ball. We have our eyelet. We have our damper body. Now, for the damper body, there is a special clamp that really is sort of needed. Now, you could sort of hack your way around this and use a regular flat, very soft jaw to sort of hug the body. The whole idea is that we want to put pressure around the IFP so the IFP doesn't sink when we put the eyelet in, okay? Also, we're going to need 7-weight oil. So the way this works is essentially just locks into place. Now, Rockshox sells a tool. It's like very expensive. You could buy like these aftermarket ones from eBay, like this guy's from, what was Rnoks, R-N-O-K-S Designs. And they're way more cost effective and they work just as well, man. Don't spend the big money. Just go get one of these 3D printed ones, right? So we're going to take this guy. We're going to put him in. All right. Actually, let me make sure he's sitting in. Am I centered? Yeah, good enough. Let's try and make him more centered. Oil pan underneath. And because oil is going to want to spill out the sides when we put the piston in, let's take one of these guys, wrap around here. Okay. All right. Oops. Oh, well. You guys get it, right? He's just going to collect some of the oil that's going to come out. So next, what we're going to do, take our oil, pull them up to the top. Can you see that? Yes. Ooh, close one. They overfilled it. Always put your cap back on top of your oil. Trust me from experience. You will spill it one day all over the place. Grab rubber, tap it just to make sure there's no bubbles inside. Looks good. And then take the bubbles out from on top. Oop, more bubbles coming in. Let's overfill them a little bit more. There we go. Okay. So now we take our head, our assembly's all the way down. We do not want to push down from the eyelet. We do not want the shaft to sink in while we're screwing this all down, right? It needs to go in as one mechanism. What we're going to do is slowly roll it in, sink it all down, and then start twisting. You might need your 19mm or whatever you're using as far as a wrench, adjustable wrench, to get it all started and finish it. But ultimately a crow's foot, 28 Newton meters, you're going to need it. And then we're going to need the bleed screw and the ball after. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this guy. We're going to slowly put him in, let those ports fill up. Okay. And sink the, there we go. Nope, he's not sunk in. See what I mean? He could fool you. So put some pressure down, go backwards, see if you can feel the click right there. Now put him in. There we go. Now he's getting stiffer. We got oil coming out. Yes, we do. See, we got bubbles coming out. That's a very good sign right there. Everything's working well. Let the air come out again slowly. There's no rush over here. Let all those little ports fill in. There's a lot of little ports in there. See, now we're getting more of a stream of oil. So that's a pretty good sign. Really good sign. Okay. As this guy sinks in deeper, and again, we want to make sure the shaft's all the way up, right? Okay, it's starting to get a little bit hard. Let's take our tool. See, more oil's coming out, more air is coming out, more bubbles are coming out, if you can see that. And now we are at the end. That's where we grab our torque wrench. He's in a bad spot for me. 28 Newton meters. I could grab them this way and 28.2. All right, so now no more air bubbles are coming out. I can see it clearly. You can't see right in back. Of all places for that thing to land. So we're going to take our ball, we're going to put it in the hole, and we're going to sink them in there. Okay, what you can do is make sure he's sunk in there real nice. And then we're going to take our bleed screw and screw them in. And the whole idea here is we are going to crush the ball. Okay, screw him in until he is stopped. Done. Awesome. Out of all places for this to land, I mean, this is pretty evident. You don't have to see it. I mean, you get it, but ultimately, again, we put the ball in first, then we put the bleed screw. Next, we fill up the IFP chamber. Now, to fill up the IFP chamber, we have two options. We could fill them up with air, which I highly recommend, but today I'm going to fill it up with nitrogen only because I made a video on filling up IFP chambers with Schrader valves on nitrogen recently, and I did not mention as far as cutting the actual pin, what's the best way to cut the pin in order to get the proper length, and I'm going to go over that in a bit. But highly recommend you just get the adapter, which you're going to need. Get a regular high pressure shock pump. For this shock, we have to go to 500 PSI, right? So what you're gonna do, make sure the seal's on here. You're gonna screw this in all the way to the base. Then you're gonna screw in your shock pump, and then you're gonna fill it up. And when you remove it, do not remove the shock pump from the adapter. You have to remove the adapter from the shock, or else you will lose all the air you put in if you try and remove the shock pump from the adapter first, right? So that's how that one works. So as far as filling up with nitrogen, so again, I went over this chuck from Power Tank. It's called the PT chuck, which makes life a lot simpler over here. It allows me to control the, the Schrader valve as far as pressing down on it, right? And the way that's going to work is I'm going to use this adapter tool, and I'm going to put it straight in. But I need a pin in order for that pin in there, or rod, to connect through in order to touch the Schrader core over here and press it down in order so I can fill it up with air or nitrogen, right? Technically, what we're about to do also works for the hand pump as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to screw this guy in, right? Make sure he goes to the base. So right now he's all the way at the base. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a rod. Now this is a 2mm aluminum rod. It's just easier to work with. You could use a 2mm spoke. It's just harder to cut, right? So I'm going to put this guy in, and you can feel him. I could actuate the valve core, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut him right at the base over here with a angled plier. Boom. Done. I already made a whole bunch of these, but I wanted to show it. And that is the proper length of the rod. So now when I screw this guy in, okay, screw him in. Actually, I don't want to over tighten him. There we go. Now, basically I just push down on this knob over here, and he's going to activate the rod. Okay, so now he's fully activated. Now when I pull him out, the rod will lift up and the valve would be closed, and then I can disconnect the system, right? So before I charge him up, I'm going to put this all the way down. Put this guy in here. Now I've already charged up my nitrogen system to 500 PSI. Okay, so we're pre-charged. Now I'm going to open up the valve, and when you work with any kind of gauges and pressure, never look straight at the gauge. Always look at an angle, okay? So I'm going to take him. I'm going to slowly fill him up. We're going to bring him up to 500. And we are at a dead even 500. He's staying there. Let me close him. Make sure we don't have any leaks. And I definitely do have a small leak. I have a leak somewhere. Question is where? I absolutely have a leak. Well, let's find out. Okay, so I just filled him up, or I just covered him with soapy water, and the leak is right here where the adapter meets this head. Basically, I need more plumber's tape over there. All right, see that? That's why we double check. We don't assume that everything is working correctly. We always want to make sure that we don't have a leak. You want these IFP pressures to be where they are recommended. So let me fix that. I'll be back. So I put a little bit more plumber's tape, locked it all down. Now let's try this again. So I'm got the valve all the way pressed in. Let's fill this up to 500 PSI again. We're at 500 even. Let's leave it there for a second. Now let's shut it. And now we are not moving anywhere. Now we are solid. There's zero leak. So what I'm going to do is push this. Now I'm going to open this up in order to disengage the core all the way to the end. And boom, all that pressure just came out. Now, what's the advantage of this? Again, there is no pressure on our seal, right? When the seal is sitting down all the way inside, it's in its seat, there's no amount of pressure that'll want to blast it out. But as we start removing it, even with a hand pump, it's going to start separating, leaving its seat. And the second all that pressure finds the smallest empty space, it's going to want to go right through it and pop that seal, right? So ultimately, we just avoided all that. So now we have a fully filled IFP chamber. Again, I highly recommend using a shock pump. You don't need nitrogen. You do not need nitrogen, guys. Air will work just fine. So you could use this system for a hand pump as well. It will work, but make sure that you unscrew it from the adapter, not from the shock to the adapter, okay? Or else, well, it's not going to work all that good for you. So, well, now we test it out. And now we test them on the dyno. So we are in the fully open position, the rebound, which we could access through this hole. Make sure that's in the open position. Yes, fully open, right? Holy cow. No noises, totally silent, goes all the way down without issues, comes back real nice. Okay, let's lock them. Yep, not moving anywhere. That is really, really solid. So we are good there, fully open. Now let's take the rebound and shut them all the way down. Whew, that's not going anywhere, man. That is sweet. This thing is working perfectly. It's working real well, man. It's got nice response right there. Look at that. Boom. Awesome. Now let's take it home with the 50-hour service. So I took the air can service kit and I put out all the seals, right? These are for the inner air can. This is for the air can itself. And we have the O-ring that we will swap out later. So before we start any of that, what we are going to do, what do I do with it? There it is. We are going to put in our IFP valve cover. Okay, grab your shader tool. Probably should have done this before, but better late than never. All right, finger tight, don't over tighten him. We don't want to strip him. So he's done. We're going to put him on the side for now. So next we want to take out the seals from the air can, right? So we are going to take out the wiper first. Then there is a seal at the base of the air can here. Grab a pick, get underneath them, and lift him up. That is the thin one. And then inside we have our white ring and this is a split ring, right? Yes, we have a split ring and we have the quad ring. So as far as split ring, actually, let me just grab this guy. Should be able to grab him out if I could grab him. There it is. Kill two birds with one stone right there. Done. That is the quad ring. And that is our split ring. Garbaggio. Now, spray them down with alcohol, some paper towels, and start cleaning. Oh, wow. Look at all that mud at the base down here. Holy cow. That's not good. We're going to have to give this guy a look at that. Okay. Take a corner, or make a corner, put them in the inside seat first, tuck them in there, and then go all the way around a couple of times, just like that. And we're going to do the same thing to the wiper seat. Make a corner, tuck them in, rub them all the way around, because that's where all the dirt collects. See what I mean? We're going to do that again, but first let's clean these seals here. Now, if you have a plastic brush, clean the threads. We want these things real clean so we could get a good connection between the can and the eyelet. See what I mean? Now we're going to spray him down again. Okay, grab another piece of paper towel. One piece. Oh, come on, man. Tough time. Okay, let's go in here again. Much better. Much better. Let's fit him on the inside. Much better. To the inside of the wiper seat. Definitely a little bit of dirt left still in there. Let's do that again to make sure we come out clean. We do not want dirt getting inside this can. See what I mean? Still a good amount of dirt in there. Okay. So what we're going to try is, let's grab an angled pick. All right. Much better. We'll do the same thing on the inside. Wow, look at that. See what I mean? Holy cow. Let's do that again on the inside seat. Don't be fooled, guys. Okay. Now we are clean. Let's clean these threads real good. Use your thumbnail and basically unscrew them all the way out. In the threads. There we go. And do the seat for the seal. And done. Let's put this guy aside. Grab our SRAM butter for now. And we're just going to put a little bit of butter on our quad ring. Not much. We're going to take him, we're going to put him on the inside seat. Okay, the only thing is, make sure that he does not twist. Make sure you give him a good check. He is not twisted. Then we're going to grab our split ring. And we're going to put him on top of the... Now him, we have to make sure he is sitting correctly, right? He can't sit like that. He has to sit like, you know, in together. Like a puzzle, basically. Yep, he is good, right? So then we take our wiper with no grease. In fact, let's clean whatever grease is on the seat. We do not want grease on the wiper, around the wiper. We do not want it to attract dirt. Take our wiper, put them in. All right, done. Then we take this thin ring, put them on the outside, the air can at the base. Air can is done. Mounted the shock on the vise. First thing we're going to do, let's take out our quad ring. Let's do it this way. Might as well take out our quad ring and our split ring. Now, if you notice, we have two split rings over here. And yet, they only give us one in the kit. So we are keeping this thick one. We are changing out this thinner one, okay? But first, let's clean the seat. Make sure it's clean, there's nothing in there. Clean the damper body, clean the whole thing. Okay, it's the old ones. Well, that wasn't smart. Let's clean this guy, make sure there's no dirt on him. Now, this is the new quad ring. Now what I'm going to do is open up this pillow pack a little bit. Just take a little bit of oil. Cover this guy inside. Just a little bit. Put him up so he doesn't spill out. We're going to put more. Now when we put him in, make sure we do not twist him. He's not twisted. So then we're going to take our big quad ring, split ring, put it in the back, squeeze him together. Okay. Then we're going to take our other one and we're going to put him in the front. And if you can, well, you can offset the splits. Okay. Now we're ready to put the air can in. So first we're going to put some good amount of oil on this guy. All right. Then we're going to put a bunch of drops in this guy here. Put about like half the pack. Okay. More in here. That's good enough there. So next we're going to slip them in. Okay. Easy enough. And when we put them in, we're going to put the remainder of the oil inside. Now you notice that I didn't put in the token. I want him to try it without this because he's never tried it without it. So he has no idea what it would be like. So it's a good idea. Always experiment, guys. Never assume. The reason they put stuff in their stock is to satisfy, not satisfy the masses, but provide options for the masses. So just because it comes with tokens in it doesn't mean it's right for you. You should always experiment, okay? So we have the oil in there. We emptied it. So now we're going to pick it up and we're going to force it in. Now, when we put it in, we have to push it to a point where the negative and the positive will release, and that will be near the end, right? It'll make it a lot easier screwing it in. Just like that. Hear that noise? Now it's super easy. So then we screw it in. Okay, let's grab a towel since my hands are slippery. Actually, and hand tight, as tight as you can. There we go. All right. Don't forget our O-ring or our sag ring. Next, spray them down with alcohol and clean all the excess grease and oils that managed to get on the outside, especially around these dials. We want these to be oil and grease free. All these little nooks and crannies in here. Okay. And ta-da! And there you have it, folks. You just finished fully servicing a Rockshox SIDLUXE Ultimate A1 chassis rear shock. Super easy job, guys. But like I mentioned multiple times, stay away from the eyelet, the knobs, and the internal shaft. You do not need to touch those at all unless you absolutely have a problem with them. If you stick with the air can and the damper body, this job will go real fast, real easy. You won't have any issues, and your shock is going to run amazingly well. Now, very important, your first few rides, make sure that you clean the dirt that might build up based off excess grease or oil coming out of the wiper. You do not want to make the wiper's job harder than it needs to be, okay? That's very important to make this thing last a long time. Next, we would set our dials to where they were originally and put the air in. Don't forget your air cap. We already got our sag ring on and we are ready to go, guys. All right, so hopefully you enjoyed it. If you like this video, please, man, click that like button, click the subscribe button to see more videos, click the bell button, what-ding, in order to get notified when videos get released and more videos like this are coming. Until then, I hope all is well with all of you, and we will be talking to you soon. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.